Hello, my name's Hans, and today at Rimmer Brothers we're going to do front discs and pads on a 2017 Jaguar F-Pace. Today we're going to be fitting some quality aftermarket discs and pads and a new wear sensor on this Jaguar F-Pace. While it was on the ground, we've loosened off the locking wheel nut key, and now we've jacked it off and we're going to remove the other bolts and remove the wheel. This wheel hasn't been off in a while. Now we've got the reel removed, we can actually see the brake pad wear pad sensor that we're going to replace. Hopefully it'll come out. If it won't, it'll break, but don't lose that little spring bit that comes out with it when you put the new one in. So we'll move it out of the way for the moment, and we need to pull these dust caps off. And we're using an 11mm hex. We can loosen them off. They shouldn't be really tight. Now we just have to remove this spring. It's using a pair of pipe grips. And if we carefully compress the piston a little bit, we can gently remove, and careful not to strain the brake house, so we need to find something to support it. Just need to crack these two bolts off that hold the carrier. They're actually not as bad as the back ones. Now I might need to turn this a little bit and try something else. Now we need to remove the disc. Well, that come out easier. This one's well rusted onto the hub. This is extremely well rusted on, so we're just going to give a little bit of penetrating oil. It's not like we're putting the disc back, so it doesn't matter us hammering it. Yeah, she come off, reluctantly, but she's off. As you can see, we've cleaned up the hub as best we can, and we're going to refit the disc. Remember not to put any grease or lubricant on there, and line up the screw hole for the bolt that holds it in position. I've pre-greased it with a bit of copper slip, so it'll come out again easy next time. We'll tighten up that later when we tighten up the other bolts. Now we need to clean up the carrier and refit it with some new bolts. Just like the rear calipers, we're going to put some copper slip on the bits where the brake pads fit. Easy to do this while it's actually off. We don't get any on the actual disc itself. Also fitting new bolts. Okay, now we need to tighten these two caliper bolts up to 110 Newton meters, and then after that we have to angular tighten them by 120 degrees. So this is 110, and I'm going to use some Tipp-Ex and mark on the bolts and move it by two flats being exactly 120 degrees. Okay, so we're going to move this bolt by two flats. So I'm going to use a bit of Tipp-Ex and mark it on that bit there, then count 2 that way, and then on the actual aluminium housing put a little mark there. So when that mark lines up with that mark, we've moved it 120 degrees. Do the same on the top bolt. That's tightened up the right amount. As you can see, the 2 little marks line up now. We're ready to fit new pads now, but before we do that we need to push this piston back. But before we do that we must check the brake fluid level to make sure that it's not going to overflow if it's been topped up in between brake pad changes. I've checked it earlier and there's absolutely loads of room, so we're quite happy to fit this little tool. I sometimes use a G-clamp and we can gently push the piston back. Make sure that the rubber seal's nice and tight, no splits in it or any wear or damage. If the piston's tight, there's something wrong with the caliper. I'd advise changing it. That's gone back in there lovely. So we can now fit the outer pad. And the inner pad, I shan't put any grease on this side. Making sure we're not twisting the brake pipe. And these aren't sticking out too far. We can now tighten up these 2 little slider pins. These slider pins aren't tightened up too much, they're only up to 28 Newton meters, which you can see isn't very much at all. You'll know when it locates in because it goes in a little groove at the bottom. We're just going to make sure that we degrease the disc because we've got a couple little bits of grease on it. Then we're going to do the brake pad sensor wire. Okay, I'm going to change this brake pad sensor wire. We just need to gently tease it out of all the little brackets. Often it doesn't want to come out. Put a bit of penetrating oil, and that lubricates it. On these ones you have to take the ABS wire out first, and it comes out from behind. The other end plug is actually hidden behind here. Okay, so we've carefully put it through all the little brackets, and remembering not to lose that little spring clip, carefully tease it in between the brake pad and it should just clip in. Don't worry about it being loose, it'll soon get stuck in there. All we need to do now is put the wheel back on, tighten it all up and do the other side. Okay, we just need to tighten up the wheel nuts. We've done the other side, and first of all up to 70. and we'll go up to 133. Before you drive the vehicle, make sure you check the brake fluid level and also depress the foot brake and make sure that you've got a firm pedal. You must do that before you move the car, because if you don't, you might have nothing there when you first touch it.